starting the meeting. Sorry. My name is Dave Coward. I'm the president of Community Inc. If you're not familiar with GCCI, we are a local nonprofit 501c organization looking out for the needs of Gold Canyon. We like to refer ourselves to the eyes and ears of the Gold Canyon, with the listening community. When we find out needs, we try to go forth and find the resources to fix whatever the problem is. And one of our main issues is conserving our Sonoran Desert. So since they opened this,
I guess I can't project very much, but anyways, one of our primary missions and one of the main ideas that we got from the community during surveys is we all love our Sonoran Desert. We want to try to maintain and keep it as pristine as we can, and get into what we call controlled or at least somewhat have some control over the development that's going on around here. So when they opened this park, we were at the ribbon cutting about a month or so ago, and I got the idea that, wow, why don't we have our meeting out here? Because there's a lot of controversy out in the community about the park and all the traffic and that kind of stuff. So we thought, well, why don't we have a meeting and invite the community out and see for yourselves the beauty of this new park. So we invited Ken Taylor, who runs the Open Space and Trails Department of the county. And without further ado, I'll let Ken come and he can explain how this all happened and maybe how to navigate the park as well. So.
Without that. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep. I figured. I project well. Sitting here helps me not, if you've been around when I speak, it keeps me in place, or at least semi in place. So thank you for, and welcome to Peralta Regional Park. Appreciate you guys coming. So how many here were at the ribbon cutting? Just so I have an idea. Okay, so those that are at the ribbon cutting, a lot of what I'm going to tell you is probably stuff that I shared at the ribbon cutting. But I'm just going to go through some of the how the park came to be, and some of the cool things about the development of the park and some of the amenities within the park. And I don't know if you've noticed, there's not a good picture here, right? I haven't seen anybody in this group taking photos yet, which is really disappointing. So the vision for the park started actually way back in 2006 and 2007. It was part of the initial development of the Open Space and Trails Master Plan for Pinal County. It was one of 7 regional parks identified in that planning document, and that was approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2007. So quickly after 2007, Great Recession was here. We didn't do a whole lot as far as park or trail investment and development. But soon after that, in about 2012, the county leadership said, we need to start implementing the Open Space and Trails Master Plan. This particular facility was one of the goals of that first implementation strategy. So we actually began discussions with Bureau of Land Management in 2013. So if you go back to that point, we started that discussion in 2013. We just opened in January of 2023. I'm going to do the math. It's not too hard. 10 years. It took us to get from, usually happens on projects of this size, but nothing of substance that delayed the project or was a budget buster on the dollar side. So some of our park highlights. So again, I talked to you a little bit about how the site sits on previous, disturb areas. So it did take into account, sensitivity to the environment, keeping our footprint light, and the views and the natural environment more of the feature of the park. So as part of our BLM process, we had to do an environmental assessment, which included a plan of development, actually what the construction might look like, a biological review and an archaeological survey, obviously. Part of that environmental assessment also looks at what your site disturbance will be. So the anticipated disturbance for this project, so it's a 498 acre parcel. Our estimated site disturbance was 22 acres total. So again, taking advantage of what was already here and making that work. You'll notice we had, and you listen to our contractor, we moved a lot of dirt, but it was from one road to another road or one site road to another road. So 22 acres. We were obviously pretty conscious of the habitat that was on site. So you'll notice if you look to the north, we have a pretty substantial saguaro forest on site, and which has definitely been one of the features of park visitors is like, whoa, I didn't know there was that many saguaros on site. Yes. So that was definitely a concern in construction. We, as part of our construction, the county, and part of our development, we and our contractor cost, we harvested 105 saguaros. We put those into 3 nurseries on site. So we harvested those back in the spring of 2022. Had 3 nurseries on site and tended to those during the construction project, and then in the fall of 2022 replanted those 105 saguaros. Several of the saguaros that you see surrounding this site were part of that relocation. We're pretty proud of the fact we were able to keep that many saguaros. We also reached out to the Tonto National Forest. They have a volunteer group that is salvaging saguaros for some of their fire mitigation. And they also harvested about 24 saguaros for that project and took them back up somewhere in the Tonto. I think they're in a nursery waiting to be planted. So some other related items, for a project like this, obviously this parking lot, there was probably vegetation on that parking lot and some of these roadways. Typically in a construction project like this, that slash gets either piled and burned or it gets piled and put in a trash can and hauled out. We used that, our designer, I never could quite, took me a while to figure out what he said, we're gonna do desert pavement. What the heck is desert pavement? So all of the slash that came from the project was piled and then redistributed, chopped up and redistributed, and is on all the slopes. And we put all of that desert pavement on slopes as a barrier against runoff and stabilize the slopes before we put the hydro seed on. And the hydro seed went on top of the desert pavement. And if you're not familiar with hydro seed, that's that stuff you see coming out of the hose that they spray, and you're going, what is that? Just a desert seed mix. So if you've noticed, I know there was about a dozen poppies at the entrance and a couple on the slope right over here next to the main restroom. That is part of our hydro seed. So we're anticipating later this month, early March, we should have a pretty awesome flower bloom between what was here naturally and the stuff that we used in our hydro seed. Some of our brittle brush on the east side of the park, on the road back to our camping area on the east side, is already blooming yellow. And I will tell you that pretty much everything green you see on these western-facing slopes on that side is all brittle brush. You get an idea what color that's going to be in about 6 weeks. the Bacchus family, Arizona Game and Fish, BLM, and those experts, they relied heavily on local Indian communities for that art, that cultural history. And the panels look amazing. There's a bench next to the panel so you can sit and relax if you want. But if you read all this, if you read all 6 panels, you're going to be here for a while, but you're going to learn a lot. One of the unique features of the park, way on the east side, which, in case you have a chance to get out today, my favorite spot, way on the east side. We have 7 backpack sites. So these are walk-in sites only. Can't get to them with a vehicle. If you're going to camp there, you're going to haul it in on your back, and so, or on a bike or a horse or whatever. And they are what I would describe wilderness primitive. So we provided a trail that goes out there, what we call the backpack trail, and then a path to a square area that would be reminiscent of a tent pad. And there's a steel backpack hanger, and that's it. That's all. That is the extent of the backpack sites. And it's meant to give you that backcountry experience. And I liken this to when my kids were little. I would have loved to be able to take a 6-year-old backpacking where I was pretty sure that if we had issues, I could get back to the car quickly. And if they have issues, going to the bathroom the first time outdoors, there's a restroom within, a quarter of a mile distance to walk there if you have to get there. So definitely a unique experience. Something, we have 5 individual sites, a couple of group sites. We think that, the group sites will be somewhat popular with Boy Scout, Girl Scout activities. A stargazing node, which I know that GCCI is familiar with. Already working on some kind of stargazing. Don't ask me about stars, ask Dave. Because I know absolutely zero, except for I know where they are. The stargazing node is to the east here, a concrete pad where you can set up telescope. It sits in a bowl, so it's kind of protected from whatever light's on the site. If you notice, there's not any light on the site. Our only lights are on the restrooms, and they're solar operated and motion sensitive. So they only come in if somebody's going to the restroom and leaving, and that's it. Great spot for setting up telescope, watching that. I think at the ribbon cutting center, great spot for a date night. Super. Definitely quiet and out of the way. And we think that's going to be popular, especially as it warms up in the spring. Wildlife watching. We kind of had an idea. We've been working with Game and Fish for a long time. I kind of had an idea what was on site. We'd seen some during the lead up to construction. Since construction, and I remind people, this was while we had heavy equipment on site during construction. We have seen on site, or our contractors have seen, we've seen bighorn sheep, deer, javelina, bobcat, Sonoran desert tortoise. I think that's all the biggies. Obviously, a plethora of bird species, a whole host of rattlesnakes, scorpions, and tarantulas. So if you're one of those lovers, this is the place to be later in the year. And then we also have about 9 miles of non-motorized, multi-use trails. And I will tell you again, we kept to that backcountry feel. These are not 6-foot wide paths. These are single track trails, 2 to 3 feet wide, a couple that are maybe a little narrow. That go throughout the park. Kept that that wilderness feel, we're pretty happy with that. We as with any trail construction, we've still got some stuff we're working through as far as signage and some municipalities is very reasonable. Our fee schedule, which was approved in June of 2021 by the Board of Supervisors, does not include at this time a day pass or an annual pass of any type. So we're exploring how to make that fit in with what our statutory requirements are as far as fee schedules.
And you can do that online too, Ken.
Yeah, so initially, so our camping is all online. So if you make a camping reservation, it's pretty sweet. You can go in, make a camping reservation, and pay your day use fee, same transaction if you're doing a overnight camping. And I'll tell you how easy. So I checked this the other day because we're having a family event out here in March. Myself, we rented three or reserved 3 sites, 2 nights each, close proximity to each other. Took me about 5 minutes to do all 3 reservations because I could bunch them into the same reservation. So that's on the camping side. The day use fee, when we first started this, again, we have no infrastructure. So putting an entry station at the front was not going to happen. So this is a remote, we treat this as a remote outdoor recreation site, just like the Forest Service would do in the wilderness. And so that's what we call in the outdoor recreation world an on your honor system. On your honor means, in the old days meant you took an envelope and you put money in it, you put it in this box, what we call an Iron Ranger. We have those available. There's one at the entry, one here at the stargazing node, one at the equestrian parking area. As we began construction, we're like, man, it is 2022 at that time. It'd be nice to have some kind of online option to be able to, accentuate the Iron Ranger. So we looked at our camping vendor. Unfortunately, they weren't able to do that, which made us all sad because they're so easy to work with. So we did find another online vendor. You can pay. We've got QR codes at the kiosk. You can use a QR code. You can pay like that. If you're a planner like me, if I'm going out on Saturday and I know that on Wednesday, you can go online, buy your pass for Saturday, print it, stick it in your car window, and you're done ahead of time. And I think we've got I'd have to check with my staff, but I think we've got like a rolling 3 months available. So if you want to buy your day pass for 3 months ahead of time, have at it. I mean, plan that far ahead. That's great. That helps us. It helps you guys. So. Yes.
Hi, Ken. I'm Isabel Peterson. I know the answer, and you already talked about it, about the annual pass. That most of the state parks have annual passes, and that makes it affordable for frequent users. Now, we are residents here, and if we wanted to use the park, say, 3 times a week, the $7 would put a pretty large bend in our wallets. So I am hoping that there's gonna be some way to have annual passes that makes this more affordable.
I think that's that we've heard that, but I have, just like you, I have to work within statutory requirements. So I don't make the rules, somebody else does, and I have to follow those rules. So what we have right now is the accepted fee schedule. That would be a change to the fee schedule, and there's a lengthy process to change that fee schedule. So the last time we did this, and again, I go back to, we updated our fees, started in November of 2020, and the board approved them in June of 2021, including multiple public hearings, outreach, all that kind of stuff. I can tell you, annual passes never came up. So, I get it. That's what we have to work with on a staff perspective. And I'm not being flip here.
No, I understand.
Carpool. Pile as many people as you can in your car or your van or whatever, and that price gets down to about 50 cents each. And I will give you another example of how we're using that. So the local school wants to do an event here, and we can't. So I can't. people think that, you're the director. Unfortunately, not at this time. We could not afford that. I will tell you that this project is way more expensive than we anticipated. And fortunately, our match is just the land acquisition. Fortunately, the rest of the grant is on the feds. So we're hoping funding kind of holds out, and we can start that project in 2024. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a small business here in Spokane, and a number of my clients have enjoyed the trails and said they just loved it. But they did say that there were some concerns about understanding the signage. Is that something that is?
That has been our number one constructive criticism item, or I said constructive suggested item. So I'll go back to our thinking when we designed all. So we were thinking minimal, backcountry. And in backcountry there's some route finding that you have to do. We kept it really minimal. That has been an issue. We think we have a solution, and we should have that. I think we just placed an order 2 days ago for a solution to that. So I would anticipate by the end of February we should have that potential solution solved, so that even if you're directionally challenged and not good at route finding, you should be able to make your way around the park. And that's been I've done projects like this for a long time. There's a lot of things that will change and we'll have to adapt based on what we see on site, and that's one of the first.
So one of the things that I hear people having concerns about is traffic on Peralta Road, increased traffic because we have more people coming to the park, and there are many observations of people speeding both on the paved part and the unpaved part. So I'm hoping that we can get better signage like right along the road, informing people about speed limits and so on. Is that in the plan?
I'm not, so first of all, I'm a trail guy, I'm a park guy. I don't do road enforcement. That would be Peralta County Sheriff's Office. So speeding issues, that goes to me. As to additional traffic, we've heard that, from back in the planning stages. I would venture to say, at least right now, that we're not the traffic issue. If you go out and sit at our entryway and watch the cars, 90%, maybe probably more than 90%, is headed to Peralta. We always thought that this offers an alternative for some of those folks, so some of those folks would actually come here. Same traffic, just different location. Yes, sir.
When are you going to have some more information that you can take a look at before you do the trails on their difficulty?
So we have difficulty posted on our website. If you go to the trail map page, the bottom of there is each of the trails. If you click on that bar, whatever trail it is, it will open up, give you trail difficulty, mileage, some sites to look out for. So there's a hole in the rock if you go on this trail over here, but I'm not telling you where. And some of that stuff. Okay. So that stuff is already posted, and we kept them. The difficulty is hard to do because what's hard for you may be easy for me, or vice versa. So we, it's either beginner or moderate, advanced, those kind of things.
Okay.
The decals, okay, so we'll have actual on the signage decals that are color matched to our map with a name. I'm not sure we can get any more detailed than that.
Okay.
That's my kind of thought.
Okay. All right. I want to respect everybody's time. Thank you.
My pleasure. I would say I would say after you're done, go, because this is, all due respect, this is boring. Go enjoy the park.
Yeah, that's why we had it out here. For you to have this meeting, but after the meeting, please enjoy the park. As was mentioned, that we're paying the $7 fee. So can I get a quick count of how many cars came here? I think we tried to get a count, but
And then put on the website those that should not be used by equestrian. Because we had some,
One
Oh.
week, there were places that were awful narrow, and I think about a bike.
Well, anyways, we want to be fair and we want to support the park, so we're going to pay that plus the fee for this
anytime.
facility.
Anytime.
But before we adjourn, I'd like to introduce Dale McKinney. He's our Parks and Rec guy, as part of the committee system that we have in GCCI, and he wants to tell you a little bit about what he's doing about some of the trails and stuff that's going on in Gold Canyon. So, Dale?
I don't need that. I got a big mouth. I don't need that thing. If I start coughing or sneezing during this and scream and bend over the table and ride around, don't worry. I was riding one of the most hazardous, aggressive trails, bike trails in this area the other day and had an accident. And hurt my ribs. It was the Bashas parking lot. My wife said that did the person run into you? No. Did he cut that? No. He described it as he got into my swim lane. And I made a avoidance maneuver and crashed. I'm fine now. Anyway, I'm Dale McKinney. This is supposed to be a get to know you thing. I'm going to keep it a little short. First of all, it's not that exciting to hear about. Second of all, we just want to honor everyone's time, commitments and everything. But I was born in Washington State. I'm the director of Parks and Recreation for Gold Canyon Community Incorporated. I was born in Washington State, grew up on the Oregon coast, was a very outdoor active family, hunting, fishing, hiking, biking, just outdoor activities. So I've always had a big interest in it. I've been a backpacker. I've climbed some mountains. I just really enjoy the outdoors. I went to school at Oregon State University. I wanted to be an oceanographer, marine biologist when I was growing up. And then I was kind of a thinking kid, and I thought, there's no money in that. So I went into nuclear engineering. And I worked for 40 years, the services of a web page designer who's going to help me set that up and probably connect it to our existing web page so it's easy to access. So you can go to Gold Canyon Community and you can say, where's some good trails around here? And it'll have links that you can click on and find out all you need to know about the trails and all that too. There's a lot of those resources out there, but we want to gather them all in one place. I'm looking for volunteers. These are my 2 new volunteers right here. These young ladies, I was out today and I was pulling in and I said, what are you guys up to today? And they told me they were hiking and I told them about myself a little bit, gave them my card, and they're seasonal, right? You guys are seasonal visitors.
Right now.
But while they're here, I want to get them to help me with a lot of this stuff too. So, but if anybody else is interested in helping out on parks and trails and those sort of activities, you're more than welcome to get a hold of me. I have my cards with me, so if you'd like that, you can hit me up afterwards for a card, or you can go to our website and get that connection too. And that's all I have. That's all about me. All right. Thank you.
This is a great place.
Cool.
I do want to help you, so I'll give you, I'll send you a note.
Okay.
So that you have my address
So
and things like that.
that's kind of the end of our program. So there's some water back there. If you're going to go out hiking, make sure you take some water with you. But enjoy the park. It's a beautiful day. We're like 100 degrees warmer than some parts of the country right now. So let's enjoy it. And thank you for coming out. And if you will be around for a while, if you want to ask questions about GCCI or what we're doing, if you want to join us, make sure you want to get our newsletter that comes out monthly that talks about what we're doing and some other events in the area. Please sign up, and we'll be glad to share that information. So Normally we meet at the Mission Center across from the Methodist Church every first Saturday of the month at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we changed it to 10 today because it might be a little bit warmer. So anyways, thank you for coming out. Enjoy yourselves today. Again, have some water and some snacks and go for a hike. Right.
Can you give me one of your cards?